You people know for a fact to say Bawumia will never get any space in the NDC. Bawumia cannot. Bawumia will not and shall never and will never and can never and never be held in the NDC. How? Bawumia only economy in chain will be our NDC. Bawumia is not a better economist than any NDC economist. No, nobody. Nipa ben obetuni Bawumia compared to NDC also Bawumia better in economics than that person. Mahamudu Bawumia nim nyansa de chichire man or a textbook economist. On tiasie e kasa keke. Enti ade be chire sa wote se Mahamudu Bawumia e kasa same way about the city or say city appreciation. If you ask a simple question to the NDC to point out exactly what is policy they have implemented that has resulted in the appreciation of the city, they cannot tell you one. Or see, and the Ubusa NDC for say a dear policy and no more implement here ama dollar no and what the above for city regions or say NDC for to me control. And I mean Busa Bawumia say, what is policy? What is policy? Is it policy as a word or policy as steps or things you put in place to make sure things are right? Because I get say what Busa NDC for say policy. Mahamudu Bawumia, how many policies did you present to Ghanaians from 2013 to 2024? He goes on to say that they only passed their budget in March. They have not even issued any contract and paid for anything. So you cannot ascribe what is happening to the currency to a policy that they have implemented. In 2016, NDC for pass budget and chair. It's dollar na and the echo from no untumin kase NDC for a bibi sunkumbia because omuntumin ka policy bakwa omutumi de gina so ama dollar na bafom. To me, if the NDC cannot tell me one policy, that's a dollar na bedu true a 12, the NDC should not tell me any policy. Because he told me so many policies and he moved the dollar from 3 to 17.
All right, Abusia, Honorable Mahmoud Bawumia, awaye Fabera, Emma MPP, Eko UK. In sense, we are going to do efa $60 on Abusia, a renewed trend or social media. No, so I just say, and easy. And this is for so Asoria, almost a Kasa, just say, Samidan fee, a to be money, Mahmoud Bawumia. Sasuna Mugabe, a so to be a money, Mahmoud Bawumia. Hopeson Adorye, association one side, I also to be money, Mahmoud Bawumia. So when the fundamentals are weaker, one when the more fun to us, Mebusia, when we travel homeline, some of my bonnet and Tama Pudu parties and some polo, I'm a bonnet bede. But to a pamperos nam de adomato so no about the dying amubian near. Let me try me home bar and come on, yet the so. All right, Abusia, MPP for thank you to now a copy more UK Abusia. Anna Mahmoud Bawumia den no $2 Cedis incense say exchange of gold and oil no. And no can be an amount dollar no eba for me. Or no I say you and I mean, at forcing your finance minister or Jeho Samba. No way, and I'm being my ready, Ghana. What church in some Mabusia and my MDC forces to bufu ye, no, so share. Catchy, yeah, fundamental when they are strong in your week. Ye near my papa, ye, and I'm a dollar, a buffer my city, no so. A deep, a pigeon, I might be beer, my CB, beer, Kojuju. Abusia Mugabe was send a strong message in the command Mahmoud Bawumia. Sasuna, Kevin a Quabadutela, and so. Sunny rain, ye hit pa, and you go Mahmoud Bawumia so. And so, Abusia, you will still my tab. You couldn't cook tea Mahmoud Bawumia, then some man or can $5 listen to who, UK in some Emra.
The appreciation of the city that we have seen recently. I think one of the things that if you ask a simple question to the NDC to point out exactly what policy they have implemented that has resulted in the appreciation of the city, they cannot tell you one that has been implemented, not sort of talked about, but actually implemented. They cannot tell you one such policy. They only passed their budget in March. They've not even issued any contracts and paid for anything, pretty much. You know, so you cannot ascribe what is happening to the currency to a policy that they have implemented. There's no such policy that has been implemented that has had that impact yet. For me, we had anticipated the impact of gold in this economy. I talked about it when we got into dire straits in 2022. Bank of Ghana had bought $5 billion worth of gold. After all the noise of the election, people are paying attention to our reserves. That is one thing, which we have built to 30 tons. Secondly, you've mentioned that the US dollar itself is on the decline globally. And that has also strengthened. If you go to Zambia, for example, the kwacha has gained a lot of ground also because you have the US dollar declining in value because of what is happening in the US with all of that. So I think those are critical. And then there's the third element, is that they are not spending. I mean, if you are managing an economy, you have to pay your bills. They are not paying IPPs, for example. This is why the doomsday is so acute, and they are not paying contractors. So when you are not spending, there's less pressure on your currency. So those are some of the reasons why you are seeing an appreciation of the currency.
All right, Abusia, Mahmoud Bawumia and the Koteninka Eba and just one day. What Chilum said, Jumandio, on a didn't in a Google form, and then out of forcing Edge Samba. Abusia, wait, and now Mugabe, who paya what the toe was, hey, it's Mahmoud Bawumia, or okay. Bibia sound all right there, Abusia. Yoko tie Mugabe na numa asem me pese be free man no aba emra sisi ya
Vice President pa ba o me so we okay ana bibi kakra tejema mu ya so se ba o me okay say good for oil no nti she pa mo de toto akwa mu no e na ama ba bia Ghana dollar no aba beduru munafikini nonsense mini na temo na se mo kare nyansa nim te nonsense abayaba abeto sa dollar da baby abay na put measures in place to make sure say o man ni betimi agina ne naso wo se credit no wo akwa tena fie no ya vo credit ne man na gold for oil na eja mutumi edit to akwa mu na ama dollar no about wo ye munafiki. You don't know what you are talking about. Bawumia, you don't know what you are talking about. If the kitchen is too hot for you, man brother, you can still remain in the United Kingdom. E wa Ghana kwatena lande wa mama kwatena on cancer phone to my wa me maka sense jo mama ne penifo sa mo relax munya adwuma no munya sa Bawumia ne hwanhwa munya wa mama yen. I will handle them without fear or favor. Bawumia mo ene wo mu January for na ma retire bi mu uzo mo chama January mo nyina so mo call retirement. O mo ba we have the man. Kwa empty noise. Wo mo ye de kwa. Yava credit no dollar never from yava credit ma wo munafiki tisa wo Bawumia. For what? You think that Ghanaians are fools? Nani ama koya eka nyina ne mo sisi maso. Akro for things. You come and answer questions on PDS. Very soon you answer questions on Walugu Dam. Even say wo ye beja mo na ko firi sana. Mutimi nya no kasa. In less than 5 months ya, move power mutimi nya no kasa. Useless ones in opposition. You continue to be there. Say go for oil. Munafiki for oil. Bawumia munafiki for oil. A true for ni akromfo. They are thieves. O maybe our my way.
All right, Abusia Mugabe ene kotie ne ba ya what to be mane Mahmoud Bawumia. Abusia Kevin Ekwobani Taylor eso achichire wa bon ponto mapuduo party sensem Paulo a obesanim ama Mahmoud Bawumia say krachi. Mo old video bo ho me bebo ama mahwe. Niema mo ba ban mo bebe ye niema mo ma dollar na titim pasam ye ene wo atofo senje ne samba ye nye samba ni mom ne mfa ma se wo na ade ne magugu kwam ena ma ene NDC for omo benefit ya dollar no e ba fom ye kokotie Ekwobani Taylor so emra.
You people know for a fact to say Bawumia will never get any space in the NDC. Bawumia cannot. Bawumia will not and shall never and will never and can never and never be held in the NDC. How? Bawumia any economy in chain will be our NDC. Bawumia is not a better economist than any NDC economist. No, nobody. Nipa ben obetuni Bawumia compare to NDC also Bawumia better in economics than that person. Mahamudu Bawumia ni nyansa ya de chichire man or a textbook economist. On tiasie e kasa keke. Enti ade be chire sa wote se Mahamudu Bawumia e kasa asem way about the city or say city appreciation. if you ask a simple question to the NDC to point out exactly what is policy they have implemented that has resulted in the appreciation of the city, they cannot tell you one. Or see, and the Ubusa NDC for say, a dear policy, and no more implement here, ama dollar no, and what the above for master religions, or say NDC for to me country. And I mean, Bawumia say, what is policy? What is policy? Is it policy as a word, or policy as steps or things you put in place to make sure things are right? Because I'll get them say, what was the NDC for say, I'm going to check policy. Mahmoud Bawumia, how many policies did you present to Ghanaians from 2013 to 2024? He goes on to say that they only passed their budget in March. They have not even issued any contract and paid for anything. So you cannot ascribe what is happening to the currency to a policy that they have implemented. In 2016, NDC for omo budget and chair. It's dollar now and the echo from no untumin kase NDC for a bibi sunkumbia because omuntumin ka policy bakwa omutumi de gina so ama dollar na form. To me, if the NDC cannot tell me one policy, that's a dollar na be do true a 12, the NDC should not tell me any policy. Because he told me so many policies and he moved the dollar from 3 to 17. If the NDC today, they come out to tell Ghana for say, we are not going to tell you any policies, but the dollar is going to come down. They should not give me any policy. All that I need as Obiam beton engines, Obiam Kofanyama, Obiam businessman, I need the dollar to drop. For you, Bawumia, to tell me policies for 8 years, for the dollar to move from 3.8 to 17, I would rather stick with the party that will not tell me any policy, but the dollar will come down. Actually, wait, Jimmy. Actually, this guy, he sees all of you. Oh, say the style of politics, you know, the JHS kind of politics, the primary school kind of politics. Boy, be no say, or yet show be or skate, you know. Boy, be no doorbell, no, cheddar, the cheddar kind of politics. Oh, kutie, don't make an catch them in Namen country Ghana for a cheddar kind of politics about Bawumia. Bawumia is doing the cheddar kind of politics. Cheddar. Bellboy cheddar kind of politics. Inti debiano say koye man dia obey the day and koye dia you be fault. Mahamudu Bawumia is playing the cheddar kind of politics. Now what is policy? Because when the president of the republic, Berman Safo, he spoke about Adorye, he spoke about how the reason why the dollar is going down, and what didn't take echo from say it is being supported by strong forest reserve. How do you get dollars into Ghana? So President Mahama say, and the dollar I appreciate it 3.9%. And the reason is that we are getting a lot of dollar inflows. The question is, how do you get dollar into your country? Do you need a policy to get dollar into your country? So how are you going to get dollar into your country? Something needs to happen for dollar to come into your country. If you knew that this policy will work, why didn't you get dollar into the country? Mahmoud Bawumia. Onsa Bawumia, he's in a political party. Majority of them are illiterates. Majority of them don't go to school. In Bawumia or a crutchini in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king. Majority of omo MPP muno omunko school. Omunte brofo. Inti omu Bawumia so nimnyansa. And every time biano NDC for who Bawumia muhunu say as a joker. Because there are more learned people in the NDC. They understand the facts. They question the system. But 90% of MPP for no in their head, Bawumia is intelligent. That is why they are still hailing Bawumia. Because see, a political party, chairman would to me, ebe regional chairman. It should tell you the level of intelligence. Our party, no, a woman. 90% of the people in the party, they are illiterates. Omu ko school. Inti omu bodam nibi also a ko school. They see him as God. That is why Bawumia is making his way inside MPP. Now, what is policy? Now, after Musa Bawumia, policy now kano. This is policy. Let's try and read policy. A policy is a set of principles. It's a set of principles, rules, guidelines that govern actions and decisions within an organization, government, or group. Policies are designed to create consistency, fairness, and efficiency in how things are done. What a policy? Mahmoud Bawumia say NDC for enka one policy ama and the dollar neko form. Na NDC for to minka. And I may explaining what is policy to you. The principles were not followed. Which principles were not followed? How to make sure accountability works. It was not followed. Nepotism took over. Corruption, we could not basically collect revenue to the point where we as nation, no, from the taxes. The revenues we were collecting, it was going into Haptel, which is your company. We are talking about ECG, leakages at it. So the principles now NPP went to make this, and then a say of minor. The NDC are seeing these positives because the principles, they are following the principles. To get a policy, it is your ability and your will to follow a certain principle that will guide or govern your actions. Because when you live in a country, a third world country, now the $58 million, you are not being principled. Your actions are not being governed by the principles. Until at the end of the day, the people will lose. Into policy, it is nothing. Policy is just a word. There are components that comes together to form policy, and we are missing, and that is the principles John Mahama is following. And those components, when they come together, it will move your dollar from 17 to 12. Mr. P, Mr. S. This is Mahmoud Bawumia. He said he introduced 33 policies, meaning cluster of principles coming together to get 33 policies. The question here is, the 33 policies Bawumia catch in opposition, in power, say or introduce, how did it impact Ghana, our economy? 33 policies should be able to leave the dollar at 9 or 4 before you leave office. This is the joker.
Mabaye as vice president. The entire me person move voting money as president. Number 1, Ushe Ejuma Mabaye as vice president. Let me kind at least 33 policy initiatives media in government. Digitalization and one constituency, one ambulance agenda 111.
If you look at my work as vice president, I can mention several policies I have championed. Everybody says no vice president has worked hard more than I have.
So many different policies my championing in government. Me akosi Obia kase ushe vice president bawa Ghana unye vice president awaye ejuma say Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Unye vice president Ubisa John Mahama say obedi vice president on pointing out one policy bakupea or the buy baku me 33 on pointing out.
Ask my opponent John Mahama what he was able to achieve as vice president. There is absolutely nothing. Promote me from vice president to president.
Only bakupo 33-0 into munyinamunim say vice president ejumano na pass Enti mum promote me na munko president. Me we vice president ejumano. Ba ku bro. 33-0. Enti munyina munim say vice president ejumano na pass. Enti mum promote me na munko president. Me we vice president ejumano. Mum promote me na munko enkodi president ejumano. Munyina munim say agrono abaso efri anapatututu. And I don't know.
This is the guy. He almost became president. Yeah, fast. Say Uncle Ndawa. Uncle come pushing by force. Say president. This is the guy who almost became your president. This is the guy. Now take a step back. I feel now who consume me. I feel now who take it. Utie Bawumia or not to make a sort of sre. I just say your body too shitty. Sit back and analyze. Share the body language, share the cohesion, how coherent he is. See the way he's able to dialogue. I didn't know. You're careless. I swear to God. Kakwe be the president.
All right, Abusia. Ekwabadi tell any quitting a buy and actions on the January Nugu Honorable Mahmoud Bawumia. So Abusia, Yako Hopeson Adorye, Esoso Nakachi. Hopeson susu di nsebia ba betu ja opeso chese eh Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to bazo chese ye man panyin John Dramani Mahama adwuma papa ode agusu a chese atofo susu eje ne samba ene dollar yi ba na eba for me mo aban mu me yese go for oil no mo yese mo de buy susu still na dollar no twitwa na hwitu koso abusia yeko ne koti Hopeson Adorye emra
good for oil start here no fuwe omututu musa continuously sa kosi se omufra ban mu. There was not a single occasion yes good for oil na bantino ya tifu e so kakra e bien sida e brebia na eden na e kosoro. Now number 2 mo start here e beba form that time no mo start no gram say na what 13 cedis mo wie na won say ko hit 20 and a baba dollar no and the bebe gina 17 no dollar na 7 na me we mo start fuel na you know good oil no na dollar no 13 but dollar no sa kosura ko hit 20 and the baba na be gina 17 plus and then na musa say we mo di free akonya so no so we go for oil no emfaso a eba so no every yibia no na oil no kosoro ana o dollar no so a wo se wo yi pressure na free so no eno so na kosoro sa na Ghana sika no depreciate na eba form aban foforo ba yi ana wo se send ye be ya pressure ma meto eye dollar no so ma yi sika no nkoko depreciate ntino ye mo obi akwan ma no export to gold say we export to gold aban e de be yamon ana aban e den hyehyɛ ba say yenya gold board Adorye gold board no thank God I'm saying omo inaugurate the gold board eti say no obie ni ho a obetimi ato gold akase or sporto direct diako. Do you know why? Ghana yen hyehyɛ mu no obi obe sport to gold akwa abontin bia no okokoton a as say sika no dollar no as say about 80% or so eba back to Ghana na eje say back keke na abanyafa na mum as say ba eba wo no obetimi akwa koyi sika odi be ya adwuma within the country send ye be ya ebe support the economy ebe ma sika no enkonko too much pressure ema so a ebe kwa koyi yi sa pepepe na ban ehyehyɛ you know our the two honum and so under MPP government we share the estimated good free o mayimu a na emudu ye pa okay abranti be finalist akura be kan ansem that's right but sikana say babak no just emu 20% krama the difference between gold for oil and Mahamad's policy what the gold board buy and say Mahama policy no ama oil prices baffle for 5 or 4 consecutive times yatiti fuel so sa yatiti so sa manaba bedru baby edru intense yedim say ebesa first ebia hon mo ani atiso ba ko wo ho ani atumu be mienu ne wahu ne no but when the oba ye no wu say entiti so no edisu sa eba it should tell you something. Number 2 with local currency no appreciate continuously against the dollar. So it means to say now you can say demand no emro supply no so because of insheshe papa say we hwehwa we benya ntino ade no honum ama esika sem no mu ebo yedu a che say etoto bibia ye. All right abusia Hopeson Adorye ene kwotene kan eba na abusia many beji so be share video yi ama foforo enya bi ahwe na wa kire wadwen e comment section honum subscribe to your YouTube page no anytime you ever drop latest update no unsa aka abusia medase makrao.